This edition of the Veterans Opportunity Network radio broadcast is brought to you by PIOGA, the Pennsylvania Independent Oil and Gas Association. We want to welcome and introduce Danielle Boston to the Veterans Opportunity Network. Danielle is the Director of Public Outreach for the Pennsylvania Independent Oil and Gas Association and is responsible for creating and implementing the outreach strategy for the association's workforce and economic development initiative. Danielle is going to explain why veterans should view development of the Marcellus Shale as a tremendous opportunity for their economic improvement opportunities. Again, Danielle, welcome to the Veterans Opportunity Network. Maybe we can start with you telling us about your organization and explain for our audience just what the Marcellus Shale is and its relevance to the job and enterprise sector.
Thanks, Stan, for having me on the show today. As you mentioned, I represent the Pennsylvania Independent Oil and Gas Association. We are a trade association that represents the full spectrum of oil and natural gas producers within the state. Oil and natural gas production is not new to Pennsylvania. We have been producing oil and natural gas for about 150 years, starting back from Colonel Edwin Drake's first well discovery in Titusville, Pennsylvania. So long history here in Pennsylvania, but what we do have is really a rebirth of an industry with what this new, what they call unconventional natural gas find, this shale gas that they are now able to tap into, called the Marcellus Shale. So many people have heard of this. It's been a very hot topic. It's pretty much the #1 news story that's been covered throughout the state, and also not only within Pennsylvania but nationally and also globally. This Marcellus and the natural gas find that we have here has really been, a focus of a global effort here.
Well, two things. First of all, what is the Marcellus Shale?
Sure. Good question.
I mean, people would come up to me and they said, this Marcellus Shale thing, it's like, but what is it?
Yeah. It's a rock formation that has been, formed millions of years ago. It's approximately anywhere from 6,000 to 9,000 feet below the surface of the earth. It's a very dense rock, and we actually have been drilling through it for years, but until we've had some advances with technology and some advances with hydraulic fracturing, we now can break open this shale, which will release the natural gas and come back up. The Marcellus Shale has been, again, like I said, known for millions of years. But again, they've really analyzed. It's a very large formation. It's about 95,000 square miles. It starts in New York State, runs about 60% through Pennsylvania, West Virginia and Ohio, and a little bit into Maryland. So it's a very large natural gas find.
Now, is this similar? You mentioned Colonel Drake, and I read the book The Prize. I think I mentioned that to you. And is it true that there wasn't much use for oil before the Industrial Revolution? I mean, the only thing they used it for was, what, kerosene?
Yeah, correct.
And then Colonel Drake comes to Pennsylvania and he says, I know there's a pony in this, I know there's oil in the ground here, and everybody was like, so what? And he kept drilling. But tell us the impact of finding oil in this region.
Well, it's obviously created our modern world. All the uses for oil and ultimately natural gas as well, has really touched all of our lives through, the tires we drive, the rubber that's used, the petroleum products that are, now plastics and chemical feeds that rely on this petroleum industry. It's really created the modern world that we have now. Obviously, electricity, the gasoline that we drive in our cars. So it really sparked, like you said, the modern world and helped the industrial world to advance.
And are there any comparisons with that phenomena? Are we in Western Pennsylvania poised to do something similar in this clean energy sector?
Well, I think we're at the very start of this, but absolutely yes. I think we're poised, and we're nicely poised here in Pennsylvania with the abundance of the natural gas find that we have, and being so close to the northeast corridor of some high energy areas such as the New York area and all the way up. We feel that because of the potential that we have here, this Marcellus Shale, they're projecting, could hold about 500 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. Annually, the United States uses about 23 trillion cubic feet a year. So if you think about that, and let's just, for an example, turn off all the natural gas spigots around the whole United States, this Marcellus Shale could potentially power the United States alone for 20 to 25 years, just with what we have underneath our feet.
Now, some people would think that, okay, natural gas, I don't know about you. I cook with electric, okay, but that's nothing against gas. I like to cook with gas. You get better food, right? But what use is there for natural gas, and what's the impact from an industrial use standpoint and then an output standpoint, commercialization standpoint for natural gas?
Well, there's a lot of potentials for the use of natural gas. Like you said, residential homes are utilizing natural gas already. There's a potential for cars to be converted, CNG vehicles, which is actually prevalent around the United States, prevalent around the world, but not as much around the United States, and definitely not here in Pennsylvania yet. There's a lot of potentials for additional energy sources to bring manufacturing back to Pennsylvania. This is going to be a cheaper, cleaner fuel to use, which ultimately will bring back some heavy industries, heavy energy users to come back to the state, because there'll be the potentials here.
Is there heavy lifting in terms of making people knowledgeable about the benefits of natural gas?
Yes. Absolutely, Stan. A lot of heavy lifting. That's part of our job right now, is to really talk about the potentials of the industry and talk about what we need to do in order to get there. We have to do a lot of, and this is really at a DC level, really switching and looking at our energy portfolio and saying, how can we, build that infrastructure to maybe have more natural gas vehicles, or maybe quickly converting some of the fleet operators, such as the busing systems, the FedEx companies, the local delivery companies, to maybe quickly switch over to natural gas. But again, you have to have that infrastructure built. There's a lot of discussion and some vision of maybe having natural gas fueling stations along the turnpike. That would be helpful. And again, just continuing to think through all the new options that we have with this cleaner burning fuel.
You're listening to the Veterans Opportunity Network. I'm your host, Stan Richardson, along with our very own Deborah Contrell, and we are speaking in the studio with Danielle Boston. Danielle is the Director of Public Outreach for the Pennsylvania Oil and Gas Association and is responsible for creating and implementing the outreach strategy for the association's workforce and economic development initiative. Right after this break, Danielle will explain for us why the oil and gas industry believes that veterans are well positioned to secure jobs and supplier contracts in relationship to the ongoing development of the Marcellus Shale. So I'd like for you to stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
We'll be right back. You're listening to the Veterans Opportunity Network.
This segment of the Veterans Opportunity Network was brought to you by PIOGA, the Pennsylvania Independent Oil and Gas Association.